Good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Galt from Education Scotland, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon. This is part of a wee series that we've been doing in conjunction with CLD Manager Scotland around aspects of CLD planning. And the session today is looking at the role of youth awards and embedding youth awards in CLD planning over the next few years. So we're delighted to be joined today by Jim Duffy and other members from the awards network who are going to lead us through the session today. So hope you enjoy it. And I suppose the other thing maybe just to mention is that we are recording the session today. Okay, well, let's hope we have a good session today, and I'm going to pass over to Jim. Over to you, Jim.
Thanks very much, John. Delighted that so many of you have joined us this afternoon, and really pleased that the Awards Network has an opportunity to contribute to the thinking and work on developing community plans for 2021 to 24. We're not going to do all the talking today. Hopefully you're all going to contribute in one way or another, because we'll only learn by sharing with each other. And I know from the questions that have been raised and the offers of examples of practice to share, that there's a lot of information there that which hopefully we'll benefit from as the afternoon goes on. I'm pleased to be joined by a number of members of the Awards Network, and they will be in the breakout sessions, but also be fielding some questions as we go on. So any questions that you want to think of, please put them into chat, or feel free to contribute as the session goes on. So if they've all managed to find the technical links to get us in, then I'm joined by Rebecca Barclay from Archaeology Scotland, who leads with the Heritage Hero Awards, George Cherry from Youth Scotland, delivering High Five Dynamic Youth and Youth Achievement Awards, Toby Clark from the John Muir Trust and the John Muir Award, Jamie Mingus from CERC and the Young STEM Leader Project, Beck Rains from DV Scotland, Sarah Robertson from YouthLink Scotland and the Participative Democracy Certificate, and Laura Wright from Girl Guiding Scotland, and a whole range of awards through Girl Guiding. So thank you all for joining. We've got a PowerPoint presentation which John will hopefully put up for us, which will guide us through the first part of our work. John, if we can move on to that, and slide 2 would be great. Yes, that's who we all are. We can move on to the next slide. We'll just see who makes up the awards network. Before we do that, of course, I meant to just reiterate to you the learning outcomes that we hope to achieve from this afternoon. These have already been shared with you, but we want to develop an awareness of the opportunities that youth awards can provide to support achievement across a range of policy goals. We want to consider outcomes and measures for youth awards in CLD plans, and to identify some of the practicalities, the challenges and the good practice around monitoring youth award achievement as we go on this afternoon. Just as background to the awards network itself, we have currently 28 member organisations of the awards network and 5 partners that we work with. Indeed, I have another application for membership this morning, which we'll be thinking about in due course. But we cover quite a diverse range of organisations, from the cadet services through the other uniformed organisations of Scouts, Guides, Boys Brigade and Girls Brigade, and some niche organisations like Comedy and Confidence. And within that group, there are a lot of organisations who I know are working with local authorities and with schools and with others in delivering a range of youth award opportunities at the moment. YPI, you'll see in the corner, is with the Wood Foundation, is one of our strategic partners. That programme reaches 34,000 young people in our secondary schools in Scotland, and it's a fantastic programme that we're linking to, and they're supporting us in trying to grow awareness of the different types of opportunities for recognising the achievements and accrediting where appropriate the achievements of young people. Whether it be through their volunteering activity, the learning that they get from youth awards, through community engagement, and so on. So we'll hear more about these awards as we go through the day. You may have come across us through our publication, Amazing Things. Amazing Things is the guide to youth awards in Scotland. Our purpose as an organisation is to promote awareness of the youth awards that are available, and to try and grow the opportunities for young people to engage in youth awards. And our vision is that we reach a point where the achievements of young people gained through youth awards are properly recognised and valued alongside other formal qualifications arising from education. First edition of Amazing Things we published in 2008. The most recent edition was released in September 2017, and we are currently working on a fifth edition of Amazing Things, which will be a digital product, and that we're aiming to have out in September of this year. And over the years, the number of awards that are recognised and achieved by young people has grown significantly. In 2015, we had a HMI review of youth awards in Scotland, which acknowledged 73,000 awards being achieved. And in the last full year that we have our award census for, we recorded 116,383 awards being achieved by young people, which is a fantastic number. You'll get more up-to-date information on awards from our website at awardsnetwork.org. Obviously, any publication is out of date the day you release it, and we've had a number of new awards that we've recognised since 2017. You'll find out a lot more about them on our website. Just to explain that there are different types of awards that we capture within the awards network. There are credit-rated awards, and I know from a number of the questions that have been raised that there's a particular interest in accreditation within the context of CLD plans going forward. What we would say is that accreditation is very important, but our focus is on recognising achievement, and the accredited awards may not be the most appropriate awards in every case to recognise achievement. Just some of the accredited awards we've identified there. You can see Youth Achievement Awards, the Participative Democracy Certificate, Young STEM Leader Awards, SQA Leadership Award, and there's a whole suite of wider achievement awards from SQA available. And indeed, it may surprise some of you to know that there are accredited awards delivered to young people through the cadet services, either directly through the cadet services in Scotland or through CVQO. And in the last year that we recorded achievement, we had somewhere in the region of 400 plus young people achieving leadership qualifications through the cadet services, either through SQA Leadership Awards or through BTEC ILM awards. So there are lots of different ways in which young people can access awards. Programme awards, we have the Queen's Guide Award just as a representative of the highest awards that can be gained in our uniformed organisations. There's equivalent awards in Boys Brigade, Girls Brigade, and the Scouts. DAV Award is a programme award, and one that I suspect that most, if not all of you, are familiar with, because it's delivered across all of our local authority areas. One of the more recent awards, the Heritage Hero Award, is one which is growing in popularity. And indeed, there's been quite a lot of collaborative work between Heritage Hero Award and John Muir Award in relation to outdoor learning that we will hear a little bit more about. The biggest programme in terms of the number of awards achieved in Scotland is the Saltire Award. Now, interestingly, the numbers have been going down slightly in recent years, and that's a little bit of a disappointment. But I suspect it's probably also reflecting a changeover from one method of recording to a new one, and we now have a fully online Saltire award system. So hopefully we will see that award growing. That's Scotland's award programme for volunteering. And we know that there's been a huge amount of volunteering by young people throughout the COVID pandemic. Lots of young people engaged in voluntary activity in support of their community, and we would hope that that is recognised. And then we have nominated awards. Obviously the most well known would be the Young Scot Awards, which happen on an annual basis, and we've just recently had the Young Scot Awards for this year, a week or so ago. I'm aware that there are also nominated awards at local authority level, and we will look to hopefully capture some of them as we go forward as an awards network. In fact, we've just created a new category of membership of the awards network called an affiliate member, where we're providing an opportunity to include some organisations who don't reach the criteria that we have for full membership, but may have a local award as opposed to one that is available at a more national level. And we hope to grow our membership in that area too. So that's a bit about the background to the awards network itself. What we're here for today obviously is to focus on community learning plans. And I just put a reminder up because we have a diverse audience here. We're not all from local authority CLD teams. We have a range of different participants. So just as a reminder of what's required with the CLD plans, you can see that regulations 2 and 3 relate to assessment of need. And I emphasise at the beginning there that local authority needs to ensure that the following things happen in its area, regardless of who does them. So we're not talking just about activity which comes under the direct management of CLD services, but looking at the wider partnership in each locality that is delivering on areas that we expect to see in our CLD plans. If we move on to Regulation 4, looking at the elements of the plan, you'll see again that I have emphasised the action that other providers intend to take to provide CLD in the local authority area over the period of the plan. And there again are a number of questions that have been raised in advance of the seminar about how do we strengthen partnerships, how do we get equality of recognition between those within CLD service and those outside, mainly in the community-based youth work sector. We're very much all in this together, and we hope that that will become clearer as this session goes on this afternoon. So let's look at some of the positives that we've had from the last set of CLD plans. We picked out some issues that were raised from Planning for Change, which was a review of the 2018-21 CLD plans. And you can see from this slide here that we're fairly clear in identifying contribution with respect to young people, positive contribution to young people's health and well-being, wider learning and achievement, improving transitions, also fairly positive in relation to family learning. And again, we will have some examples of how awards are contributing in that area. Most of the plans refer to pupil equity funding, and certainly PEF has been quite useful in increasing the engagement between youth work organisations and schools, and the opportunities for youth awards through that route. Although, as it says from the last plans, few of the plans included any specific examples of that type of work, but I suspect that with having a few years now of PEF, there'll be more about that in the plans for the next 3 years. A number of the plans include priorities focused on democratic involvement with young people, and that's certainly something that Sarah from YouthLink can comment on in relation to the Participative Democracy Certificate, which supports that area of activity. As you can see there, that information on this was evident in less than half of all plans, but it's a growing area. And also the areas of employability and skills. Again, a number of the questions have been raised as to how awards can contribute in the area of strengthening employability. And again, we will come across that as the session moves forward. Can we look now at some of the the areas for improvement that have been identified from previous plans? And these, of course, will be the focus of much of our discussion this afternoon. Key areas for improvement are around the use of data, measurement of performance against aims, outcomes and targets, the use of appropriate data to inform progress, and also tracking and monitoring of young people's achievement in a systematic fashion. I'm hoping that some of you will be able to share your work in this area. It's pretty important that we're able to track the progress of our young people and to evidence achievement effectively. I'm aware of many instances where the achievements of young people are not being properly captured and not recognised, and what we want to do is, working together, get to as comprehensive a picture of youth award achievement as we possibly can. Looking at the areas that youth awards can contribute to, these are the key national policy objectives that have been identified, which CLD practice contributes to. They're all fairly familiar to you, I would anticipate. Raising attainment, we're all very much involved in that, and the increasing contribution of youth work to work with schools is important, but I've already mentioned much of what's happening outside of school is important too. And there's been some interesting developments where schools have looked to try and better capture in a more systematic way what their pupils are achieving beyond the school gates. And hopefully we may have some examples of that. Curriculum for Excellence, all members of the Awards Network would say that they are contributing one way or another to Curriculum for Excellence. I hope there's no argument about that, but we'll hear more as we go on. And again, in the area of community empowerment, hearing a youth voice in that is important too. And I know of a lot of work that's happening through CLD teams in that area, but also organisations beyond that, such as in Scouts and Girl Guiding, other organisations that are involved with the Scottish Youth Parliament. There's much that youth work can be doing in that area. Outdoor learning is an area that a lot of youth awards are contributing to. I've mentioned in particular the John Muir Award and Heritage Hero Awards collaborating in relation to that area, but we wouldn't forget the Duke of Edinburgh's Award, our uniformed organisations, and many others for whom outdoor learning is a key component of the award programmes that are being delivered. And in the context of family learning, I hope we will share some examples of parental involvement in youth awards. George Cherry, I'm going to ask later to say a few words about the High Five Award and family learning, both in the context of community-based youth work, but also in linking with schools too. And in the area of employment and skills, I hope you're all familiar with the Youth Work Skills Framework, which has been developed through YouthLink Scotland. The Awards Network did a review itself of the key skills developed through Youth Awards, and that informed much of the thinking around the Youth Work Skills Framework. Youth awards, non-formal learning awards are hugely important in developing a whole range of skills which employers tell us are hugely important to them. So we've got a number of you have raised questions about the employability agenda, and we will come back to that later. Mental health support, the whole area of health and well-being is one which youth work as a whole is seen to make a positive contribution to, and there are some specific awards that recognise progression and achievement in that area. Digital engagement is obviously a growing area, one that's become increasingly important during the lockdown period, perhaps caught a lot of us on the hop, but we've reacted very positively across the sector in responding to the needs of our young people during lockdown. Digital engagement I would use as a proxy also for STEM learning, and we have many examples of how youth awards and youth award programs are contributing to STEM learning, and we'll hear later from Jamie about the Young STEM Leader Programme, and in particular an opportunity to explore possibilities for engagement with that programme over the summer months. Right, that's a fairly quick run through on background to where we are. What we actually want to do is to focus now on discussion. So rather than hearing from me, we're going to break off into some small groups to take an opportunity just to focus on two tasks. Firstly, it may surprise you to learn that we have over 70 awards listed on the Awards Network's website. I'd be interested to see how familiar you are with those awards. And I don't want any cheating by looking up the Awards Network website at the moment. I'd like you just to, in discussion groups, to identify the awards that you are currently using in support of your work and your programme objectives. I'd also like you to consider any barriers to the use of youth awards in your locality and suggest some actions to overcome them. One of the questions raised was how do we get more youth workers interested in doing awards? And perhaps we can reflect on what are the barriers to them offering opportunities for youth awards. I'm not going to show it just now, but we've actually got an Awards Network video clip which is the story of an awards skeptic, and it's Willie Barr from Citadel Youth telling about his journey from being an awards skeptic to being a very strong awards supporter. And I'd encourage you maybe to go to the Awards Network's YouTube channel and have a look at that, because it tells a very positive story about the impact that youth awards can have and why youth workers should take greater opportunities to provide youth awards to young people. So let's move into your groups and look at those particular tasks. I'll ask each group to identify somebody who can feed back, but this is going to be a short session of just under 15 minutes. So your task there: identify youth awards that you're currently using, the policy objectives that they are being used to support, and what are the barriers to increasing the use of youth awards. Over to you, John.
Thanks, Jim. So people should just start to be allocated into groups. As Jim said, 10-15 minutes on this. There'll be 5 or 6 of you in each group.
Welcome back, Mary. I'm sorry about the technical issues there. Hopefully you can hear us.
I can hear you. I really apologise.
And we can hear you too.
A good start. This is my first day back. It's the comment.
Okay, certainly the group that I was in was using youth awards to cover most, if not all, of the bases in terms of the policy objectives that we've identified. Can I hear from... we didn't have group numbers, did we, John?
We did. We had 5 groups.
Well, do we have group 1 then?
Know what group they're in, but group 1 had Julie and Rebecca and a few others. I don't know if anybody wants to...
Anybody like to report to us from that group as to how many youth awards you identified and what they're being used for?
Yeah, sure. I just didn't know we were group 1, so yeah, that was good, John, that you said my name. That was fine. We talked about kind of a wide range of youth awards. Some of the more well-known awards like Dynamic Youth, Youth Achievement, Saltire Award, High Five, that kind of thing. We also talked about a few newer awards, such as the Heritage Heroes. Becca told us about that, and Jamie talked about Young STEM Leader Award. So we kind of had a bit of a wide range there. Also covered kind of Duke of Edinburgh, John Muir, that kind of thing. We talked about the positives and negatives to these awards being delivered in schools and in community settings, and just kind of the differences around that. And then moving on to question 2, we talked a bit about the impact of coronavirus on the delivery of these awards in different settings. And Craig spoke about kind of budget reductions in his area, how that has then reduced kind of youth provision and the services that are available to run the awards. And we also, I'm not sure it fits into a question, but we talked about the benefits of youth awards in general and the confidence and the progression for young people and kind of the power of awards. That was us.
Good. That's an excellent summary. Thank you very much indeed. And it echoes a lot of what I heard in my group. What was group 2, John?
Group 2 was the one that was Susan and Sarah and Toby, that group.
Anybody like to report back from that group?
I can feed back from that, Jim, with my scribbled notes. I'll try my best. I don't think there was any what we might call rare awards we were talking about. It was kind of Youth Achievement, High Five, Dynamic Youth, Duke of Edinburgh, Saltire. We had a bit of a chat about the progression, moving on from award to award and how useful that can be. Walter talked about his role in Orkney and how he has an overview of awards and how it's really helpful to have somebody in that role. What else have we got? We had a conversation about links to uniformed organisations and how they are there to some extent, but people would like them to be more strategic. And the use of the Youth Work Recovery Fund money that had been used by both Highland and Orkney to support the use of youth awards, whether that was staff or paying for resources for awards, etc. And for the second question, we kind of struggled for time, I won't lie, but a couple of things that I picked up were about schools again. So that kind of school saying, look, we just want to get on an even keel, so having to be patient, will we say, and not push it, but just being aware of that. And then we had a bit of a conversation about actually how the last year has helped, particularly in those rural settings, because having to master the technology means that there's opportunities to deliver stuff online, and with a wee bit of planning that could be quite innovative going forward. So really positive, but we did run out of time.
Claire's popped in a couple of things in the chat there as well, just about kind of some of the barriers as well in terms of for voluntary organisations, not necessarily feeling quite an equal partner in delivery of awards, but that confidence is starting to grow in this area as well, and that hopefully that'll increase opportunities for young people to have access and opportunities to achieve in the future. And also that in the last year as well, it's been a lot more kind of CPD, and there's been an opportunity for youth workers to train them.
Great, thank you for that. Group 3, John?
Group 3 was the one with Nicola and Vince and Rebecca, Donnie, Gillian and Kerry.
Right, can we hear from that group?
Thank you. I agree to feedback. On the first question, there was a wide range of awards mentioned, as you would expect. Duke of Edinburgh's award, the Dynamic Youth Award, Youth Achievement Awards up through the levels, Saltire, John Muir Award and the Participative Democracy Award. And generally it seems that the main policy objectives they're supporting are education and our CFE and outdoor learning. We spent quite a lot of time reflecting on some of the barriers that have been presenting themselves. One that was quite interesting, just in relation to what other colleagues have said already, about where the resources sit in local authorities in facilitating the joint planning of the award offer. So some resources sitting in the education in the school side and some in community, and how do we make sure that the totality of the offer is clear for children, young people and parents and families. And linked to that was the how to build pathways for progression within award specific awards, but also between awards. We also touched on, by way of a barrier, how do we make sure that young people with additional support needs have the opportunities to recognise their achievements in some of the awards. In particular, that it was viewed that there are other awards that are more inclusive and allow that kind of flexibility around presenting evidence. So that was definitely something that was highlighted. And finally, cost and being able to fund adequate levels of provision in response to need in an area. And I'll just also mention the SAC funded award support and provision. It was in East Ayrshire, and the emphasis there on Duke of Edinburgh's award and John Muir and others. And the added value that the SAC funded provision has brought to the area.
Good.
And that's all, Jim.
Thank you very much for that. That's fairly comprehensive. And Group 4?
Group 4 was the one with George and Maureen and Kevin and a few others.
Okay. You have a spokesperson for that group?
I can jump in quite briefly. We were the same. I think we had about 7 or 8 awards that people mentioned as the main ones, and the ones that we've kind of discussed already. There was a discussion I had mentioned that I felt that in Moray our accreditation numbers were going down as a result of lockdown, but that led to a conversation about actually in some places it's increased, so the ability to make some of the awards available with downloadable materials was seen as being positive and has actually widened the scope and the uptake as well, so that was a very positive thing. And when we were talking about barriers, we weren't really talking about strategic barriers. We were talking about just the practical things about sometimes young folk being able to evidence what they'd done. So in their head, they had completed something, but they hadn't kind of put the evidence in. But we didn't get a chance to kind of go into the discussion about other strategic stuff. George, Alice, anything else you want to add to that? And Maureen as well, sorry. I think that's us.
Thanks, Kevin. And Group 5?
Group 5 was the one you were in, Jim. So who's feeding back?
Well, I think sorry.
I was going to say, Jim, I'm happy. It's Mark. I'm happy to feedback if it helps.
Mark.
Yeah, because I know you're chairing the first part. So, in terms of the awards currently delivered, they're no different from the ones that have already been outlined. I think it was ourselves pretty much, and East Ayrshire was in the call. We had the kind of Youth Achievement Dynamic Youth High Five, DV, with some SQAs in terms of personal development, leadership or volunteering, and sports leadership as well. I think there's a lot of different ones, as well as the Young STEM Leader, which we're really trying to promote in one school, particularly in South Ayrshire, but hoping to expand it across into the primaries and into other schools. In terms of policy objectives, not too different from what you've already said. A lot of it was about the Youth Work Recovery Fund in terms of the outdoor learning, C3, and in terms of closing that kind of attainment gap, and obviously addressing the kind of wider curriculum. In terms of the barriers, we only really had two, I think, before we ran out of time. And the first one was probably more of a temporary measure in terms of COVID, which was about young people accessing awards online. And I suppose a bit about the lack of apathy there. It was an excitement at the start, but it definitely dwindled away with young folk, which is understandable. And the second thing was just from me personally, was just in terms of if I wanted to broaden out the awards offer, we would probably want our sessional and part-time staff upskilled in a lot of these areas. But I suppose it's the time and the kind of finance, the budget, I suppose, to kind of address that in terms of training for them. But that was just in my locality specifically. So in terms of overcoming these, it's just about speaking to the powers that be and getting more budget.
Great, thanks for that. A lot of positivity there from all the groups, and it is great to see that there's some progress in expanding the range of award opportunities. If we can move on to the next slide, John, just to illustrate some of the awards that can contribute in different areas. On raising attainment, that's being recognised. 32% of the awards achieved in the last full year 2019-20 through the awards network organisations delivered SEQF level qualifications. That's a growth of 5% on the previous year as well. So that's quite positive. But it's not all about qualifications as such, as was mentioned in my group. It's as much about engaging young people and providing them an opportunity to have a sense of personal achievement and personal worth that may then spark further engagement with different aspects of learning. So it's not all about the qualifications, although unfortunately in much of the youth work and school agenda it tends to be very much on the qualification side, and that's why we're keen that we look at the totality of achievement which is within and beyond the school gates, and whether it's within the ambit of the CLD teams themselves, or it's also in the wider community partners through the likes of youth forward organisations and others as well. We're all in some way contributing to Curriculum for Excellence, which of course is not owned by schools, but is about the whole learning curriculum from age 3 to 18 within and outside of schools. In terms of community empowerment, PDC has been mentioned. Sarah, do you want to say a very quick word about the Participative Democracy Certificate and the areas in particular that's most relevant to?
Yeah, no problem. I love how you always say quick to me before, Jim. You know me too well. So the PDC is basically, it's 20 notional learning hours, and it's worth 2 credits at SEQF level 5. But as Jim said before, it's not all about the qualification that young people get. It's a youth work award that is really about kind of sort of research and young people actually researching something, but also about them making the decisions about the way to go forward with something. So it might be something that's happening at a local level, and it's about young people working as part of a group, communicating, etc., to take that forward. It is completely optional, and we always say it needs to have either a youth worker or a community learning and development worker as part of the delivery team. So although it can be delivered within schools, we always try and link it back to either CLD or youth work, and it's because it's young people that are actually choosing to engage. So see, even if you were working with 10 young people and only 3 or 4 wanted to go forward with the PDC, then that's completely fine. So it's not going to sort of, forced upon them, but they're doing the work anyway. Do you know what I mean? And often, if you're working with young people, they are either planning something, whether it's a big scale kind of sort of, changing something in their community or changing something globally, or whether it's even planning a party or a kind of an event or something, you will find that young people are already doing that. So it's, in terms of costs, every member of YouthLink Scotland as well get 20 free portfolio submissions a year, which not everyone's aware of because it's about 5% of my time, so we don't necessarily advertise that as much as we probably should. But yeah, so there's minimal costs, and thereafter it's like £10 per portfolio thereafter. So it's not a massive kind of sort of commitment in terms of costs. There is a wee bit additional for like a one-off cost for training, which is £350. But again, you could put forward as many people as you wanted in that training course. So.
Good, thanks for that. And as you said, in a lot of cases, young people are doing the work for awards already, and it's about getting the recognition for that. And a great example of that is in the SQA Leadership Award. A lot of young people that might be involved in Scouts or Guides, for example, will be in leadership roles and will meet most of the criteria for an SQA Leadership Award. What we need to do is to link up the voluntary organisation input of the young people with an accrediting body, perhaps through their school or CLD, to enable them to get that final step to ensure that they get the recognition and the accreditation for the achievement that they're making. Outdoor learning, we've made.
Sorry, Jim, I should say as well just that we're not precious as well about the materials that young people use. So if they're using a template, that is actually a youth achievement template, or, John Muir or something as well, then they can actually still submit the same thing, so rather than young people actually duplicating the work, it's actually about us being kind of sort of smarter around that. And as I say, that we link up a bit more. So, sorry.
That's okay. Heritage Hero Award has already been mentioned in the context of East Ayrshire. John Muir Award, I know, has had a relationship with East Ayrshire over a number of years in relation to outdoor learning and environment. Toby, do you want to say a few words about
that? Yes. So the model for East Ayrshire is to build the capacity of youth workers and teachers to use Youth Achievement Awards to close the poverty-related attainment gap. And whilst there's lots of good positive responses and some great data that's being produced, it also demonstrates how teachers and youth workers move on and move from different local authorities as well. So there's certain challenges around that. But I think overall, it's positive to recognise that link between CLD and schools and how Youth Achievement Awards and how introducing youth work approaches to schools can be incredibly powerful. I think recently, some of the lessons that have been learned more recently, as I say, around COVID is the recognition of engaging families and parents and those youth awards that can be inclusive with family engagement have been specifically powerful, as I say, over the last sort of year or so during COVID. That's probably enough of the headlines.
Great, thanks for that. You mentioned family learning there. I wonder if I could ask George Cherry just to say a few words about how the High Five Award has been used to support family learning.
Yeah, Jim, certainly. Well, pre-COVID, there are obviously family learning agencies within local authorities that have been using them. So that's been ongoing for quite a while, and some groups such as Shining Stars in North Lanarkshire, which is an additional sports need group that actually works with the young people and their families, and they've been using them as well. But I'm going to kind of focus more on what actually happened during lockdown there, because delivering youth awards, materials were really designed for face-to-face, so it was all basically hard copy. So we very quickly had to adapt and put forward editable PDFs, so all our awards materials, so that people could use them at home. And most young people were basically stuck at home, and therefore was a great opportunity there for family learning, where the parents could do something along the lines of the High Five Award to occupy their young people's time and keep them engaged in learning. and I've got numerous examples of that. You know, we had one where a young person crocheted as an ear protector. It was something that had a couple of buttons on it that went around the back of your neck to stop the face masks basically digging into the side of your face and stuff like that. They sat and crocheted with a parent, a young person who basically got fit with his dad, and that one sticks in my mind because of the young person's statement on that about how he never used to get time spent with his dad, and he was really happy that he was able to do stuff like that. But then we kind of raised the level a bit here because we received a bit of funding, so we could actually offer the awards for free, and we promoted that through Education Scotland Parent Zone, and within the first 12 hours we had about 1,400 inquiries, and in the first 3 days about 3,000 inquiries, basically parents coming back to us and asking, you know, can you send us the PDF of the challenge sheet, blah blah blah, and do that, which was absolutely fantastic and demonstrates that there's actually a need out there, you know, for something like non-formal awards within family learning. But what it did flag up to me is that we weren't actually geared up to deal with parents as an organisation. Youth Scotland supports community-based youth work, but that almost exclusively means youth clubs and groups. So when we're actually getting individuals, it actually really ramped up the workload for us, and at a time that we would actually cut back on staff within the team. They'd actually been redeployed to other projects because we expected the numbers to drop off, but in actual fact the numbers actually ramped up, so that was quite an issue. So there might be something there for CLD plans about how can we support parents on an individual basis, and can we bring them together some way and provide that support. So that might be worth considering as well.
Okay,
yeah,
we'll
so
come back to that, George. Thanks very much.
No worries.
I'm conscious of time and I just want to move on. In terms of employment and skills, we don't have any of our members that deal specifically directly with that area of work, but I've mentioned a few there: the Princess Trust with the Achieve Award, Young Enterprise Scotland, which is helping develop enterprise skills in schools, and interestingly they also last year introduced the Young Enterprise Scotland team programme, which is aimed in particular at young people with additional needs, and that delivers an SEQF level 3 qualification, so you might want to have a look at that. Somebody raised a question about evidencing achievement. An increasing number of awards, as George has mentioned, are going online and are accepting evidence by way of video clips, TikTok, whatever. There are all sorts of creative ways in which young people can evidence their learning to satisfy needs of awards like the Arts Award and others. So if anybody wants to get back to me on that later, they're welcome to do so. In terms of mental health and well-being, I've mentioned specifically the SQA Wellbeing Awards. There's also a good case study on the Education Scotland website as to how the likes of the John Muir Award is contributing towards health and well-being qualifications, and you might want to check up on that. And in terms of digital, we've had mention of the Young STEM Leader program, which has been growing significantly in the last year. We've got High Five with its STEM toolkit that George has not mentioned. I'm surprised, but there I'll mention it for him. And in the uniformed organisations, there has been lots of work in the past, not in terms of headline awards, but in terms of the badge work that contributes to achievement of higher level awards, where there's lots of STEM learning going on there. And in fact, one of the things that lockdown has done is it has enabled people to share a lot of the learning resources that have tended to be locked up in individual organisations. So if you look at the resource that the Awards Network has put out about learning during lockdown. There's access to lots of different learning materials. Laura, do you want to say something about Girl Guiding and some of the work that has been done to open up STEM opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, we've had, as you said, Jim, there's all the organisations have sort of partnerships, and our focus a couple of years ago, we did a coding resource with Skills Development Scotland, which was for all sections, which was really well engaged, and we worked with Heriot Watt University in the robotics lab, and the young people went along and had a great time. We try and make sure that STEM is throughout all our learning and runs throughout our programme themes. And what we've found with COVID, a lot of our resources and our events are now all done online. So that's also allowing our young people to be much more used to that. We had a Thinking Day event for 3,000 young people, which was on a closed Facebook page, where they tried lots of different activities. And we have a partnership with Morgan Stanley, and they came along, and there was some coding and some STEM stuff done there. Those that are Frozen fans, Elsa was able to skate around an ice rink if you put in the right code. So there was some fun things done. So it's really important that we stay relevant to our young people, and technology has been hugely valuable, but we also realise that there's that divide, and some people have access and some people don't. So that's something that we're kind of working towards. We did have a partnership with Zoom, and we had Zoom accounts that we gave out to young people and to groups, which that meant they could still take part. And I think the Scouts had one as well. So it's just constantly trying to look for opportunities to kind of level that playing field to make sure that everyone can get involved.
Great, thanks for that. And I'm going to invite Jamie to say a brief word about Young STEM Leader and their search for opportunities for more community engagement.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So the Young STEM Leader Award is a STEM leadership award, if you didn't get that from the title, whereby young people plan, create and deliver STEM activities, events or interactions for other people. So that might be leading a science show within a school for their peers, delivering a kind of one-on-one supported study or reading session with someone else, leading an outdoor math challenge, or a design competition within a community group. So, and it's interesting to listen to lots of chat about family learning, and we've had a couple of family learning groups involved, and young people have been leading STEM careers videos with their families or going on nature walks with their families, and we've also had a great amount of digital engagement. So leadership doesn't need to be standing up and leading in front of people. It can be making a website or a TikTok or recording a podcast and lots of things. So very keen to talk to any CLD providers about the Young STEM Leader Award and how it might fit into your planning.
Thanks for that, Jamie. And finally, I'm going to ask for a word from Rebecca from Archaeology Scotland, the Heritage Hero Award, which contributes across a whole range of areas, including outdoor learning, attainment, family learning, skills development, and STEM as well. It's amazing what happens with archaeology. Rebecca.
Hello. Yeah. So I think you've summed us up quite well there. We're a bit of a catch-all award. We are a wider achievement award for the Heritage Hero Award. We're a wider achievement award for history, heritage, and archaeology projects. And as Jim says, we fit into quite a lot of the categories. Just looking down the list there, outdoor learning, we encourage people, and we've got resources and staff who can support you with your outdoor learning with a heritage focus. Family learning, again, like the High Five Award and the Dynamic Youth Award. We too did a lot of had a lot of family projects come to us during lockdown. It was really great and to see that, and since then we'd have quite a lot of homeschool groups come back to us and family groups continuing to do that after lockdown. So that's something we'd like to support going forward. Employability, employment and skills. We are linked into quite a lot of employability programs and actually have our own employability and skills development program as well. So we link with lots of awards through that. Mental health and support, we've done, in fact, one of my favourite feedbacks we got, bits of feedback we got from a project was a guy who's maybe slightly younger than me said to me at the end of a project, I never thought that someone like me could do something like this. He didn't have any qualifications from school. This is something we spoke about in the groups. Is, he'd left school, he'd got into a bit of trouble with the law, and was just trying to sort of build himself up and get ready for the employment market. So I think, yeah, awards are so fantastic for that sort of thing. I think, yeah, that's me.
Thanks for that, Rebecca. And I see that the Robertson family is practicing family learning online there, Sarah. If we can move on to the next slide, then we've heard about lots of different awards, and of course the big challenge is how do we actually get an accurate record of what is happening in our locality, and how do we track the achievement of young people. I just pulled out some examples from the 2018-21 plans of the measures of achievement that were identified, because one of the questions that has been raised, or one of the concerns raised about, is about whether our targets are explicit enough, are they realistic, are they too generalised. So just some examples there. With respect to youth awards, we're providing opportunities for accreditation awards in the local community, but there's no specifics beyond that. We want to increase the number of wider achievement awards for young people, but by how much and for what purpose? We want to increase the uptake and completion of particular awards, and it's quite useful that certain individual awards are identified that are being well used. Increase the number of people achieving an award by 10%. 80% of young people completing an award gain a qualification. The question I would just pose is, what's the driver behind aspirations like that? What do we hope a 10% increase is going to achieve, and why 10%? Why 80% gaining a qualification? We've heard a lot about the benefits of awards that don't necessarily lead to a qualification, but are about recognising achievement. And the other point there about implementing joint protocols to enable services and agencies to regularly report on young people's achievements. I'm delighted that we are joined by Kevin from Moray Council, who's going to just throw in a couple of points which might generate some discussion around this area. Kevin, I'm very grateful that you're only 3 weeks in the job. And we put you in the hot seat even more so because your colleague Fiona wasn't able to join us at short notice. So, Kevin, would you like to just provide a few words about the recording, tracking and monitoring of awards in Moray, please?
Okay, yeah, I will, Jim. I'll do my best. It's this morning was like a microcosm in the last year, because my accelerated learning to work out what we've been doing in Moray this morning was what's like happened over COVID over the last year as we've all moved to digital. But what I found out today was that, you know, in Moray in the past, there certainly had been quite strong reporting of achievement, and it had included external uniformed organisations and others, but that information wasn't systematically collected, and it was always kind of seen as being a bit partial. In the last few years within the council and the CLD part of the council ourselves, staff used to record all this information on just on spreadsheets, and it was pulled together effectively by a admin worker who got all the information and pulled it together. During the last year, we've moved on to Teams as the recording mechanism for it, and I hadn't been aware of this, but there's a function in Teams called lists. So lists is basically where all our information is being recorded. So accreditation is one of the strands within that, and there's a whole lot of drop-down menus that people can use to record outcomes as well. So it's quite a useful looking tool as well. But you know, it's only an in-house tool, so we're the only ones at the moment that can access that. So that conundrum about how do you gather this wider information with other partners is very, very relevant for the CLD plan, and we're having conversations about that just now. In parallel to this, we've been pulling together key performance indicator data for Community Learning Development Manager Scotland, and they're trying to get a picture of what kind of data is being collected across Scotland. So there's, within those KPIs, there's KPIs about the number of young people completing nationally recognised certificates, those who are partially completing them, and also ones about wider achievement. So we've been gathering that information just now ourselves with our part of the council, but also much wider in the council with other people, so active schools, for instance, who do leadership awards with young people, etc., and pulling all that information together. And I think where we are with that just now, and in terms of the CLD plans, is I think there's a lot of merit that those KPIs become partnership KPIs as well, and that we as a partnership kind of sign up to that. So we bring other partners around the table, the college, you know, partners like Lead Scotland, Third Sector Interface and their members as well. And if we can get them reporting on that type of stuff, I think that would be a positive step for us going forward. And for me as well, I think sometimes when we are measuring things, we do quite often look at the numbers, and the numbers are important and having targets. But for me, in terms of a CLD plan, and a CLD plan which is addressing LOIP priorities and looking at social justice, etc., I'd like us to get better at recording who, and maybe working out that within our reporting, yes, there is a general offer, but there are maybe some groups who face more barriers that we want to put more time into accessing opportunities like that. So I think that's one of the real measures that we would want to improve in our CLD plan going forward.
Thanks for that, Kevin. Thanks a lot. Any questions or any examples of good practice that anyone would like to share in relation to the area of recording and monitoring achievement? Deathly silence. I know this is an issue that has been raised by a number of people.
Sorry,
Toby,
Jim, can I just cut in? It's just I can't see who it was. Nicola has just shared a link, KPI data, Community Learning Development Management in Scotland Performance Indicators. So probably everyone that has that question in mind has probably opened that link like me and is frantically looking at it. So yeah, I think for me, this is exactly it. It's, you know, how can we help people that are creating CLD plans? What data, what metrics are useful? And we may be able to, we may not be able to provide them, but the more consistent we can get, the more understanding we can be of key contacts within local authorities or within regional improvement collaboratives, and the better we understand what data is useful for them, the better we can provide that data or develop how we provide that data, and the better we can build in youth achievement awards into plans. That's really where I'm coming from, is, you know, it's a two-way street. What can we do to support you guys in your planning? But I'm reading what Nicola's just buzzing around, so the answers may well be in that.
Any responses to Toby? What can the third sector do to help you with the gathering of data?
I've put my hand up, but it's silent again, so I'm just jumping in as a third sector.
You do that. I can see a hand, but I can't see the person against it. So,
so it's Claire from Youth Highland. I think one of the things we're really recognising within our network, we support a network of more than 160 voluntary youth organisations that are working with young people, and I guess we've really recognised that it's taken a lot of work to enable voluntary sector and third sector organisations to see this as an area of work that is their responsibility. So they're doing loads of work in loads of different specialised areas, really doing amazing learning work with young people, but haven't felt that they can be a partner in delivering awards with young people. So that's taken quite a lot of work to say, no, this is your responsibility too. We can all do it. But then one of the things I suppose that we're recognising is the need for really strong partnerships with this. So this isn't just about, I think, measuring and recording our own successes in helping young people achieve. This is about also evidencing pathways. So partnership is a massive part of getting this right. And partnership between organisations and between sectors in helping an individual young person achieve their potential is part of this conversation. So recognising that and also tracking, I think, the movement of a young person or young people from one thing to another so that they are learning different things with different trusted youth workers to achieve their potential. So some of the tracking that we need to be doing, I think, is around those pathways and around partnership. And that's something that we're beginning to work on at Youth Highland and beginning to understand a bit better.
Thanks for that, Claire. Nicola, you wanted to come in.
Yes, thank you, Jim. It was to just follow on from what Kevin mentioned about the KPIs, and I thought it might be helpful just to post them in the chat bar, and also to let folks in the webinar know that the KPIs have been developed by the CLD Manager Scotland QI subgroup, and they've very recently been released for folks to consider how they might be able to use them in their local authority context with partners. So the timing seems to be pretty good to be having those sorts of conversations. So I just wanted to add that piece. So thank you.
Thank you for that. We've talked about reaching across the sector to capture the totality of achievement that's going on. One of the areas that Kevin mentioned with Moray is that there was a process certainly in the past of capturing achievements from organisations like Scouts and Guides and Cadets and so on. I wonder, Laura, if you could say something about how local authorities could find out more about numbers achieving awards within Girl Guiding, just as an example, because I'm sure the other uniformed organisations would be the same.
In terms of Girl Guiding Scotland, that information is depending on the awards is kept either nationally or at a local level. So a lot of our counties are linked up with kind of volunteer groups and service in partnership with Saltire Awards and various other things. So there's a network there. It's something, Jim, that I think we need to get stronger at, because when I was speaking to Claire and to Walter, uniform organisations are there in their areas and they have links and they know who the people are, but they don't have strategic links, so they don't have proper routes in terms of getting information. So I think it's something, that information's available. So if people came to us, we could have discussions with people, but it needs to be simpler than that. So it's something that we need to discuss a bit further. I don't know, you might know yourself, Jim, how the Scouts do that. I'm not sure, but I know it's something we need to get better at.
Yeah, I mean, organisations like Scouts have certainly moved on to online databases for their members to record achievements. So there is a process by which they can get the information. It's a question of how the local authorities might be able to access that, and perhaps if they don't have the appropriate contact at a local level, then maybe the national level could signpost them appropriately. So if a local authority wanted to know what was happening in their locality in terms of Girl Guiding, they could get signposted to the right person through Girl Guiding Scottish headquarters and Scout headquarters and so on.
Jim, could I just add something?
Yes, please.
A spec from DV Scotland, like Toby, we have access to a huge amount of data that we are very happy to share and can be you know, a DV manager in a licensed organisation or local authority would have access to all of that data around the young people that we're working with, what ethnicity they're from, what, you know, all sorts of different statistics, and what level of award that they have achieved.
And we stop there a minute, Rebecca. Somebody's got their mic on and we can hear them speaking over.
No, I think that is, just bear with me 1 minute. I think that's my husband speaking on his call. Let me see if I can ask him. Just be quiet for a moment. He's moving. There we go. No. It's just that headsets are so good these days, aren't they? And he didn't realise that I was going to speak. So he was, anyway, he's gone now. Yeah, so we would be more than happy to share that information either at a school level and therefore a learning community level, or at a local authority level. Equally, we would have data on DV achievements by uniformed organisations, which with permission from them we can share as well based on a locality. And we are also in the process at the minute of implementing a new impact measurement framework. So that's being worked on at this particular point, which will mean that it much more focuses on what the young people think of doing their DV and what it's meant to them in relation to national data sets. So it means that we've got a baseline to compare against and we can see how far a young person has travelled, not physically, but in every other way in their personal development, which will be interesting to see the impact of that in the coming months and years.
Great, thank you for that.
Apologies for you all having to listen to Tim's call.
That's okay. Apologies to your husband. Thank you, everybody. I'm sure we could talk for a long time on all of these issues, but time is pretty much running out for us. It's been a fascinating discussion, and a discussion we probably wouldn't have had, say, 5 years ago, because in the last few years the recognition of the value of youth awards has increased significantly, not just in terms of accreditation, but in terms of the wider benefits of non-formal learning awards for young people. I'll just try to summarise a few points for us to consider further in relation to the development of community plans for the next 3 years. It's obviously the responsibility of the local authorities, but delivery and achievement relies on a much wider partnership, and we need to strengthen our links locally and strategically, as Laura has mentioned from your guiding on that. We need to build a dynamic profile of those partners locally, bearing in mind that third sector interfaces don't always fully represent the youth work sector in their locality. A baseline of youth award achievement needs to be established before we can have realistic targets for growth and improvement, because we don't know what's happening at the moment. It's very difficult for us to set targets to measure progression from that. Goals should be challenging but realistic. So don't say we're going to increase by 50% if we know that we don't have the capacity to do that. But we can be aspirational in what we want to do in terms of growing opportunities for young people to achieve. All the partners need to agree on reporting between each other, and reporting we hear from people needs to improve. Awards Network members can help with data in some cases, or more normally it may be to signpost to local sources of information. But the individual members of the Awards Network, we're more than happy to have conversations directly with local authorities and CLD teams to see how their organisations can engage or contribute more effectively in their locality. At the end of the day, we're about recognising achievement and celebrating achievement. I haven't had time to mention award ceremonies, but I know that some local authorities do have annual award ceremonies, and that's something that I would encourage, because I think it's hugely important that we celebrate the achievements of young people and help them to recognise what those achievements mean to them in terms of the transferability of skills that they've developed, to their future lives in work, in further education and so on. So time has beaten us, so thank you very much for participating this afternoon. I'm now going to hand back to colleagues from Education Scotland.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks everybody for taking part today in today's session. Hope you found it really useful. Certainly think it's been great to have such a wide range of inputs from different award providers. So hoping it's increased your awareness of the range of opportunities that are available, both for young people and, as we've been hearing, for families as well. For those of you who are involved in CLD planning, I hope it's given you food for thought as well. We're encouraging you to think about ambitious outcomes and measures in your CLD plans around youth awards. And I think we've heard today the crucial importance of partnership working, and we've had some really good pointers about potential outcomes and measures that might be involved in the plans. I'm also aware there was quite a lot of interesting content going into the chat. There's a few other links as well as the ones that have been mentioned. So we'll share the information in the slides from today with everybody, and we'll also share the links for people that were in the chat. We've actually got a Wakelet series in Education Scotland, which we can add some of those links to that people can have a look at their leisure. Like we said at the beginning, we've recorded the session, so that'll be available on Education Scotland's YouTube site, and I'd really encourage you to use the recording when you have it, to maybe have some of these discussions with some of your other colleagues at times that suit them. So just leaves it for me. Oh, no, one last thing to say is the evaluation from today. I think Nicola posted it in the chat, but we'll also send that out to you. And if you can just take a minute or two and give us a bit of feedback, that's really useful for us in terms of planning future sessions. So I'll close by thanking everybody for taking part, and hope you have a good rest of the day. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.